Hello, Slytherin girlies. Hello, hello, welcome. How's everyone doing today? I have a few minutes before I have to leave for just some random gig that I found that, I kid you not, they were looking for people, specifically women, who wear heavy makeup, who could basically test drive or test simulate driving a car for them in false eyelashes. I am not kidding you. I have the email. Those are the specific conditions that they asked for. So I applied, and what do you know? I got the gig. And so, yeah, it's just like a 3 hour thing, but I have to go all the way out to the boonies. Um, so it's probably going to take like 5 or 6 hours in total if you include the transportation time. But, not bad for, I would say, 11,000 yen. And I also made them pay me extra train fare on top of that because originally they were not going to pay extra for train fare. They were going to say that it's included in the 11,000 yen. But then they asked me to change my time to today on short notice because somebody canceled on them. The woman that was originally supposed to do it today canceled. And so they asked me if I could do it today instead. And I said, sure, but you're going to have to pay me extra. So that worked out nicely for me. But yeah, I have about 30 minutes before I have to head out for that. So I just wanted to come on here and go over this whole recent explosive allegation or lawsuit that Jay-Z is facing now. And in my opinion, it's about damn time that something like this came out. To be honest with you, like, I'm ecstatic over this news because I never thought I would see the day. I mean, the older I get, the more I realize that truly nothing is impossible and change is inevitable. So you really can't predict anything outside of like 5, 10 years max. It's hard to predict anything because, like with COVID, we see how, I mean, who could have predicted that, right? It was there's conspiracy theories about whether it was a freak accident or whether it was planned, but regardless, that's not something that you can really predict. That's something that it blows um, a lot of other predictions about just the whole world economy in general out of the water because that had the entire world on lockdown, or at least the entire first world countries on lockdown for the better part of 3 years, which obviously had a huge impact on the global economy. Not that we're not able to bounce back from it. That's what human beings are built to do. We are built to adapt and make the best out of whatever our situation is at the moment. And the people who fail to do that or who struggle to keep up with that, quite frankly, they're the ones that get deselected in the process of natural selection. But anyway, that is all besides the point. I say that all to say that I, for one, am ecstatic at this news, whether or not, it's true or not. He did something. He's guilty of something, right? Whether or not it is this particular crime. Jay-Z is well known to have done a lot of dirt in his past, and now we are at the peak, the pinnacle of the information age, in which everything that's done to in the dark, everything that was in the dark is coming to light, and there's no escaping it because we live in a world of CCTV cameras and 24/7 streaming, live streamers, and every single person in the developed world, and sometimes in the underdeveloped world too, has access to a cell phone, which in turn gives you access to a camera, which puts in the hands of the everyday woman or man or child even the power to expose somebody just with the click of a button and the recording of a video at the right place at the right time. So yeah, um let me just, before I go any further, let me go ahead and read the actual news article that I saw originally on NBC News. So it says that Jay-Z has been accused in a civil lawsuit of R wording. I don't want to get demonetized. A 13-year-old girl in 2000, so that's 24 years ago now, along with Sean Diddy Combs. Jay-Z, the star and rapper, an entrepreneur whose real name is Sean Carter, was accused in a lawsuit on Sunday of raping a 13-year-old girl in 2000, allegedly, along with Sean Diddy Combs. The anonymous accuser, identified only as Jane Doe, said the assault happened after she was driven to an MTV Video Music Awards after party. Wow, I think that's crazy that a 13-year-old was even at an event or had access to attend an event like that. But let's continue. The federal lawsuit was originally filed in October in the Southern District of New York, listing Combs as the defendant, and it was refiled later on Sunday, so this past Sunday, including Carter, Jay-Z. Texas-based attorney Tony Busby, who filed the suit, did not comment. Now, I understand that this lawyer, Tony Busby, has his detractors as well. He has some, I don't know, people don't like his political affiliations, or maybe some of his past actions point to kind of like trying to hop onto celebrity cases or chase certain cases for clout. So there is that, because, I want to be unbiased in my relaying to you of the facts. But as far as my personal opinion on whether he is guilty or not, I think he is absolutely guilty. I mean, there's no question about it. Even if on the off chance, which I don't really see how that would be possible, but let's say on the off chance this Jane Doe was completely fabricating and making up her story, I still don't believe that it is out of the realm of possibility that Jay-Z could have done something similar to this or adjacent, especially back in the 2000s when his star power was really at its height. So anyway, let us continue. So then Carter called the allegations idiotic in a lengthy statement on Sunday evening. So the lawsuit, or the allegations, the revised lawsuit, was posted on Sunday, and then not even 24 hours passed. Basically, in the same day, in the evening, Jay-Z released a very fiery statement on his social media, or on the Rock Nation social media, something like that, where he said, "These allegations are so heinous in nature that I implore you to file a criminal complaint, not a civil one. Whomever would commit such a crime against a minor should be locked away. Would you not agree? These alleged victims would deserve real justice if that were the case." Yeah, well, I mean, the reason that they filed a civil complaint and not a criminal one is likely, I'm not a legal professional, but I think anyone with common sense who has, their ear to the streets would come to the logical conclusion that probably the reason they went for a civil complaint first is that a criminal complaint would probably be a lot more difficult and require a lot more hard evidence to prove, which we all know in cases of SA or RAPE, things like that, it's very, very hard to prove intent in a lot of cases because there's just not enough evidence, especially when we're talking about something like this case where it happened in 2000, 24 years ago. But that doesn't mean that there's no recourse at all for such victims to get justice, which is probably why they would have opted for the civil case in the first place. So yeah, that argument doesn't hold any weight whatsoever. But let's continue reading his statement. Sorry, I'm just going off the news article here, so let me find the next part. Okay, so Carter received a letter from the plaintiff's counsel requesting a mediation to resolve the matter. In response to the letter, Carter filed his own lawsuit against the accuser's attorneys. Okay, interesting. So he tried to counter-sue. And then I also read somewhere else that they are requesting for the identity of Jane Doe to be revealed. So not Jay-Z himself personally, but his lawyers on behalf of Jay-Z are requesting for the identity of Jane Doe to be revealed. And they've also counter-sued. And the statement from Jay-Z, or from his camp, continues to say that you have made a terrible error in judgment thinking that all celebrities are the same. I'm not from your world. I'm a young man who made it out of the projects of Brooklyn. Jay-Z, you are all of, 55 years old, 54 years old at this point. Please sit down. I know that he's talking about like his come up, but I don't know. I feel like that was a slick attempt to make himself seem more innocent, more wholesome than he actually is by using the word young man in the present tense, because that's what it says. I'm a young man who made it out of the projects of Brooklyn. We don't play these types of games. We have very strict codes and honor. We protect children. Okay, interesting. I've never heard you once in all of your rap songs talk about how you protect children, but since apparently now this is the hill that you want to die on, sure, we'll go with it. And anyway, the original lawsuit filed by Busby, claims that in 2000, when Doe was 13, Combs and Carter R-worded her at a house party after the MTV Music Video Awards in New York. So I'm not going to go into the details of the essay. You can look that up yourself later, if you're interested, but it's pretty horrendous. And just the fact alone that she was a teenager, like not even in high school. 13 is not high school age. 13 is 8th grade. That's crazy to me. And the fact that his own daughter, Blue Ivy, is the same age now is just adds another layer of like creepiness and heinousness to this whole thing. I don't know about anyone else, but that's what I get. Um, Also, recently, Blue Ivy was spotted with Beyonce and Jay-Z. So I guess they all decided this was after the allegations were made public, and Jay-Z fired back with that very um, defensive, quite frankly, letter. So it's giving the lady doth protest too much. Like it's giving hit dogs will holler, because if you are so, I don't know, if you are so convinced of your own innocence, why would you have to come back with such an aggressive statement, right? I mean, if anything, wouldn't you think that the smarter move would be to stay silent and then handle it behind doors, or have your lawyers handle it behind doors? Which again, I think it just points to the fact that he's totally scared shitless, as he should be. Because yeah, hit dogs will holler. Like there's no reason for him to put out such an aggressive, like counter combative statement. And then he continues to say that my only heartbreak is for my family. My wife and I will have to sit our children down, one of whom is at the age where her friends will surely see the press and ask questions about the nature of these claims and explain the cruelty and greed of people. I mourn yet another loss of innocence. It's interesting that it's interesting he says that his heartbreak is only for his family. That's what I mean, that is literally what the statement says. My only heartbreak is for my family. It's interesting that you don't have any heartbreak for the 13-year-old girl, or the woman who is making these allegations of a horrendous crime that happened to her when she was at 13 years of age. So that is almost pretty much the same age as your daughter, Jay-Z, Blue Ivy. It's interesting that your heartbreak is not for her loss of innocence, in a very physical, violent way, right? At least in the case of your daughter. And I'm not saying that it's going to be any walk in the park for any of Jay-Z and Beyonce's kids from now on, but at least in their case, it's only kind of an ideological, like philosophical loss of innocence. Because I assume, although maybe I shouldn't assume, but I assume that the Carters have a strong enough, security, and they have all the money in the world to be able to shield their daughter, or daughters, I guess, because they have a twin. That's another girl, but I don't know how old the rest of their other kids are, but I know that Blue Ivy is 12 right now. And yeah, it's interesting that you know, I mean, I understand that it's human nature to put yourself and your family, your kids first, of course, but it's interesting how in that statement he says that his only heartbreak is for his family. Okay. Okay. And then it ends with only your network of conspiracy theorists, fake psychics will believe the idiotic claims that you have levied against me, that, if not for the seriousness surrounding harm to kids, would be laughable, Carter added. Okay, so anyway, Jay-Z like I said, I'm inclined to believe that this is 100% true. I don't think that, like, what incentive would a victim have to come out and claim such a heinous crime against someone of such a huge celebrity stature as Jay-Z, knowing that they would have to bear the brunt of the wrath of all of their rabid fans? What person would do that unless the claims were true, unless it actually happened? Like, that would not be a viable or a reasonable path to getting fame and notoriety, even if that was the plaintiff's driving motivation. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, Jay-Z has had this for a long time coming. Even if he is acquitted in some way, which I don't see, I don't know. I mean, it depends on the robustness of the evidence that they have, right? So let me not speak too far in advance, but even if he was acquitted, this is not something that they're going to be able to make go away. And the Carters have been able to make a lot of shit go away. They have been able to successfully, up until now, bury a lot of their skeletons in the closet. But we are entering a new age where we are seeing the unraveling of celebrity culture before our very eyes. And I'm here for it, okay? And for all of you, okay, if there's any crazies that come on here that are like just diehard Jay-Z and Beyonce fans, um, before you try to accuse me of, oh, you're engaging in Schadenfreude, like you are taking pleasure in somebody else's downfall. This is not Schadenfreude, because Schadenfreude, sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, let me pull up the definition of Schadenfreude, because this is not Schadenfreude. If somebody actually committed a crime, or they are being accused of something that they did that is only a small part of a huge list of things that they probably did that was shady, and either shady and illegal or just morally bankrupt, that now people are calling them out for it and asking for them to answer to it and for justice to be served. I don't consider that to be Schadenfreude. So let me read you the dictionary definition of Schadenfreude. It says, pleasure derived by someone from another person's misfortune. So what I'm engaging in right now is not cannot be Schadenfreude, because it is not Jay-Z's misfortune. This is just simply him, like, reaping the results from the sinister oats that he sowed earlier in the past. This is just criminals getting their just desserts, okay? I just wanted to clear that up. This is not Schadenfreude. This is just me, as a former ABUSE victim myself of a much older man, like, feeling vindicated and feeling so proud of this Jane Doe for finally deciding to come out and to share her story and to make this allegation against, like, probably one of the biggest, most influential people in Western celebrity spheres that we know of. And the thing about Jay-Z is that, okay, we could go down a whole rabbit hole. I haven't done, this is just an impromptu live, so I haven't done a bunch of research on everything that he's done or he's been accused of doing, but they swept it under the rug. But even me, like somebody who, I never really listened to Jay-Z's music. I mean, if anyone, I know I'm more familiar with, obviously, Beyonce's catalog more so than Jay-Z, even though I have never really been a huge fan of Beyonce either, because I feel like she definitely moves shady. And I believe that, okay, it's very possible that he could have gaslit and lied to her this whole time, because let's not forget that Beyonce herself was also kind of, I don't want to say victim, but yeah, she was also prey to Jay-Z at one point. Like, he first noticed her when she was 16, which is underage, legally speaking, in the USA, and then started dating her promptly when she turned 18. So we don't even know as a public, the public, whether when, okay, we don't know as the public when they really started dating behind the scenes. Like, did they start dating when she was 16? And then did they successfully keep it under wraps until she was 18 so that they could, you know, be safe about it when they went public with it? We will never know. But we do know that Jay-Z pursued her when she was still a minor, and he had his sights set on her. I believe there's a direct quote from him where he said, he literally was like, I want that one, or I'm going to get her, or something like that. And I do believe that he basically, I mean, I'm not going to speculate on whether or not the love they have between themselves is true. That is something that only them two can speak to. But I am pretty confident in saying that I believe Jay-Z used her essentially for his image, because he knew that, see, Jay-Z is very cunning. I believe Jay-Z is like maybe 1,000 times more cunning and frightening, quite frankly, than someone like a Diddy, who, I mean, Diddy for sure um, was like a horrible menace in his own way. But Diddy, to me, symbolizes more of kind of a reckless kid that doesn't really have impulse control, which is why he has dug himself into such a huge hole at this point, where like Diddy's case is already pretty much sealed, right? There's too much evidence against him. There's like video evidence, and yeah, all of the victims. I believe the lawyer that included Jay-Z in this lawsuit for this woman who claims that both of them R-worded her in the same night when she was 13 years old, Busby. This guy also was the one that initially broke the news about the like over 100 victims that came out about Diddy. Let me get the exact number. 300 potential cases. Okay, lawyer Tony Busby says that there may be 300 potential cases against Diddy. Yeah, so Diddy is, his case is a wrap, I would say. Tony Busby is representing over 150 accusers in the Sean Diddy Combs case and has threatened to expose the rapper's enablers as well. So it's in the hundreds, like it's in the three digits. And we have video evidence. We have the thing with Diddy is that we have other high profile women that spoke out first. So really all of this would not have come to light if not for Cassie making that first step of releasing the footage, and just, I guess, her detailed statements about what he did against her, because she was originally trying to settle with him outside of court, but then when he wouldn't cooperate, that's when she kind of dropped the bomb and made her final kind of checkmate move against him. That was the domino that toppled everything over, right? And so I feel like in comparison to Jay-Z, Diddy was not able to cover up his dirt for that long because he simply was not careful enough, and he had no impulse control, and he has a huge ego. I mean, all of these people, especially in the entertainment industry, have huge egos. Anytime there's money and fame and desire, like sick, dark desires that you can get people to cater to if you have enough money, anytime you mix all of that together, there's a lot of ego involved, right? And so I feel like Diddy could not overcome those shortcomings in himself, which, like his ego, his immaturity, his need to be seen, like his need to kind of flaunt this rock star persona in the public's eye. That is what led to him being very messy with his nefarious dealings, which meant that he left a lot of evidence around, which would later give the courts the material to indict him without any reasonable doubt. But in Jay-Z's case, I feel like he is a much more sinister character, because Jay-Z is very, very smart business wise. I mean, he didn't get to billionaire status without knowing a lot about business and a lot about how to control the optics from behind the scenes, which is exactly, I believe, that's exactly what he was doing. Like his first really chess move in life was marrying Beyonce, I believe. Or, I mean, the first move was getting with her in the first place, right? Getting into a relationship with her. And then progressively, escalating that to marrying her and attaching himself to her legally so that her good public image, like her spotless image, because Beyonce is a perfectionist, and she this woman is so paranoid about having any type of bad press about her that she tried to scrub the actual internet of unflattering photos of her during a halftime performance at the Super Bowl. Do you guys remember that? Beyonce tried to get photos of her scrubbed off the internet. It wasn't even anything scandalous. It was just like pictures of her mid routine, that just didn't look all that flattering because she was making certain facial expressions, like exerting a lot of energy while doing the routine. So there was inevitably going to be a few moments where she didn't look her best, right? Or her facial expression wasn't the prettiest. But yeah, like this couple is very, very controlling. I believe it's two control freaks getting together, and then one of them being significantly older than the other one at the time of the inception of the relationship, to the point where he was able to utilize that. He was able to exploit um, that need inside of her to control her image as well, in order to benefit from for himself, if that makes sense. So I feel like when he got with her, and like maybe, I don't know, people are saying that her father, Matthew Knowles, was kind of involved in it too. Like basically Matthew Knowles was Destiny Child's and Beyonce's manager for the better part of their career. I mean, definitely during their glory days, you could say. Beyonce eventually fired him later as her manager, but for the majority of her life, she has had her dad as her manager. And so Jay-Z would not have been able to get in there, to get in the fold of the Knowles clan, that whole group of people, without the consent and the blessings essentially of her father, Matthew Knowles. So I do feel like, you know, people say that Jay-Z is her handler, or that Matthew basically handed her off to Jay-Z. Like, I do feel there is some truth in those rumors. But anyway, what was the point that I was trying to make? Yeah, Jay-Z is much, much more dangerous, I feel, than Diddy. And that's why I'm very floored that this allegation has actually come to light, and that there's actually an official statement out there by someone about somebody accusing Jay-Z of R-wording a then 13-year-old girl in 2000. Like, I'm very, very, I'm like, wow. I mean, maybe someday, I would expect the truth to come out eventually, but if you asked for my prediction, I would have thought, okay, this is not going to happen until, I don't know, until, oh, I almost said Northwest, until Blue Ivy is grown up and maybe like in his 70s, in his 80s. When he gets to Bill Cosby age, maybe that's when the allegations will finally start to come out. That's what I personally expected. So I definitely did not expect that to happen in the tail end of 2024. Like the season finale of 2024 is crazy. Is it just me, or I feel like, yeah, this was definitely a bomb out of left field. And you want to know something else? I don't even think that this is the biggest dirt. I don't want to call it dirt, because this is an actual crime that happened against the Jane Doe that came out, that caused, I'm sure, like years and years of mental anguish and suffering. So I don't want to say that it's just dirt. It sounds frivolous, but I believe that this is just the tip of the iceberg. I'll put it that way, on the amount of accusations that they have against Jay-Z, that I believe that as we speak right now, there's probably lawyers and entire teams dedicated to collecting evidence and building an actual case for like even bigger, even more heinous crimes that have yet to, the public is has yet to be notified about. But even so, like we already know that the inner circle, or people that used to be in their inner circle, people that have had closer like one-on-one dealings with the Carters, are already coming out and speaking. They've been trying to speak and leave Easter eggs everywhere for a long time, but now with this public, with this allegation of the our word of the 13-year-old going public, I feel like it's only going to embolden people to use their platforms and speak out more. Because up until now, every time that someone has attempted to do so, they've been silenced very swiftly by the Carters. So I'm just remembering that Jay-Z had a son who is now 30 years old or 31 years old. His name is Ramir, Rymir. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. But he has been in kind of like a custody battle lawsuit with Jay-Z for the past, who knows, however many years as well, trying to get Jay-Z to trying to prove the paternity of Jay-Z being his father for like, I feel like it's decades at this point, and Jay-Z continuously refuses to take a DNA test because he knows that he is the father. Why else would you refuse to take a paternity test? And the mother of, so the woman that allegedly had a relationship with Jay-Z that resulted in Ramir being born, whose name is Wanda, is now passed away. So she passed away in 2019 under mysterious circumstances, which, sorry, I didn't really have time to research that deeply, but so Ramir, who we have to say allegedly because it's not proved, but basically, I mean, if you look at his face and his features, it's obvious that Jay-Z is that boy's dad. Um, so his mother passes away under nefarious circumstances. There is another woman, I feel like her last name is White, one of Jay-Z's ex-girlfriends from like way back in the day, probably even the 90s, who turned up unalived. Kathy White. Yeah. Okay. So Kathy White was Jay-Z's mistress when he was already in a relationship with Beyonce. I don't know if they were married at that point, but basically she passed eventually due to a brain aneurysm. And there has been a conspiracy theory going around for decades at this point about um, Jay-Z being behind her death ultimately because she was pregnant with his child and refused to get a deletion. And so he made her go away somehow. This is all just speculation, but I'm just saying that I wouldn't be surprised at all if it was true. And yeah, I believe it's a long time coming for both him and his wife, because as much as Beyonce started out as a victim in all this, I truly believe, and I truly do have, empathy for her on that front, just as a fellow woman. But at some point, though, everyone, once you become an adult and once you become of a certain mature age to be able to look at things in a more mature and objective light, I believe that at some point she did, instead of just being his victim, she also became complicit in his evil doings. And even if that only involved her turning a blind eye to many of the things that he was doing, that is also, in my book, an act of willing complicitness, because it's like you had all the resources and you could have gotten the truth, but you decided not to, You decided to turn a blind eye because it would not have benefited you. And yeah, I cannot say that I respect anybody who does that, regardless of whether they're a billionaire or whether they're considered one of the best entertainers of all time, which I don't even think she's close, to be honest. But anyway, um, this is not something that can go away. They're not, this is the one thing, they're not going to be able to make this go away with money or with, even if they hire like the best 20 lawyers in the entire country, in the entire world, they're not going to be able to make this go away because the cat is out of the bag. Like the headline is out there that Jay-Z R-worded a 13-year-old in 2000, and it's also connected to Diddy. So I mean, there's no way, there's just, they're not going to be able to get out of this. um I truly feel bad for their children because I can't imagine what it must be like to have your father or any male relative, like any directly related man, male relative of yours, to be accused of something to this degree of depravity. I can't imagine what that would feel like. I mean, this honestly, okay, not to make light or make a joke of this, but this trumps Kim Kardashian's sex tape. Would you not say? Because up until now, I would consider the case of Kim's kids to be a very difficult thing, right? To have to know, you know, to have to live with the knowledge that your mom became famous from an sex tape. This is not me shaming Kim Kardashian. This is just, I'm stating the facts. The fact that you know, it's out there on the internet, so nothing that's put on the internet will ever die, and her kids have to grow up with the knowledge and the teasing from other kids, that they have to grow up with the knowledge that other kids have seen their mom in a compromising position. And like, who knows, I mean, I'm sure that they put them in private schools where maybe this kind of activity is not brought to light, but kids will be kids, right? They're going to find a way to skirt around any restrictions that the adults might have put in place. So I, up until now, thought that, wow, that must be hard to deal with the fact that your mom um, was has like videos out of her on the internet for the public to see, of her in various compromising positions with someone that's not your dad. But now that this Jay-Z allegation has come to light, I'm thinking, if I had to choose one, I would choose Kim Kardashian's kids. What do you want to call it? Cross to bear over like Blue Ivy's cross to bear, because that is just something that, I mean, I can't imagine. Not that that has any reflection on you, as on you personally, of course not, but just to have to live with that stigma is not an easy thing, right? And on top of it, it's not just like you're not a normal person, right? If you were a normal person, at least it would, if something, if some news like this broke out, like if your dad was the priest of, I don't know, some small town, okay, maybe that would be devastating for you to the point where you wouldn't be able to live in that town anymore, because everyone that you come across in your day-to-day life would know that, or they would remind you that your dad has been accused of this crime. But at least you would be able to move out, or you could leave the country, or you could just go to a different state and start over. But in this case, like, Jay-Z and Beyonce are world famous billionaires, so you can't escape that reputation. Blue Ivy, the rest of the kids are not going to be able to escape this reputation for the rest of their lives. Again, not that it has any bearing on them, or like, they can still make an amazing life for themselves. They can still make a name for themselves in this world. But wow. I'm just thinking of, what's coming to mind right now is the lyrics that Beyonce has in her one of the songs on her Lemonade album, that, I think it was Sorry, like, and then she says, "Me and my baby, we're going to be all right. We're going to have a good life." So, yeah. I need to leave, you guys, or else I'm not going to be able to catch my train. But did I miss anything? Yeah, so Ramir, Jay-Z's alleged illegitimate son. I'm glad that this kid is being emboldened now to speak out again. I hope that the relatives of Kathy White also, or like anyone that's been victimized by Jay-Z, anyone who has either been unalived or their life has been blown to shambles because they tried to come out and rightfully accuse him of what they did to them. I hope that all these people get justice. Sorry, I need to start packing. um and I hope that everyone who has been victimized by Beyonce as well, or who has been collaterally damaged by Jay-Z through their dealings with Beyonce, I hope that they get their justice. I hope Beyonce leaves that man. Like, Jesus, for Christ's sake, girl, just give it up, okay? It's not worth it. Like, was it worth it to stand by such a monster for all these years for the sake of a good public image? I mean, you guys better have enjoyed that photo op, the family photo op that they did at the Lion King premiere, which I feel like I don't know exactly what it was. I feel like it was a prequel to the Lion King that Blue Ivy did some voice acting or whatever for. And that was kind of that raised a lot of eyebrows as well, because it's like the day after or a couple of days after that explosive statement came out from Busby, Jay-Z and Beyonce and Blue Ivy, they all showed up to this premiere as a united front, as a family. But I have a feeling that that might be the last full family photo that they have in public, at least for a while, because geez, this is not a joke. And yeah, hit dogs will holler. Let me see if did I miss anything? I don't want to be late. Okay, well, if I have any additional thoughts on this, I'll come on later or I will release another video talking about it, but good riddance. Like I'm so excited for all these predators to be getting their just desserts, and I have no shame in my game. And you're not going to shame me with accusations of Schadenfreude, because Schadenfreude implies that the person misfortune just befell this person out of nowhere. Like they were just minding their business and they just got unlucky somehow. That is not the case here. Okay, these people all invited these events into their own lives by acting in an immoral manner in the first place. Okay, I have to go. Thanks for joining. Bye.